Hi, welcome back to the second episode of our PHP XML online ordering system. Calling it XML even though we haven't actually done any XML yet, and I'm calling it PHP even though we haven't actually done any PHP yet either. What have we done? Well, let's have a look. We have created an order page that has a table with a series of menu items that we can order. Our order page looks like this. We've got 4 items on the menu and how much they cost, and then we can go through and select how many of these we want. Then when we submit our order, it takes us to an order confirmation page. And all we're doing in that order confirmation page at the moment is outputting how many of each item in turn we want. So if we go back here and say we actually don't want any beef because we're vegetarian, we'll submit that again, and now we've got 1 of those and 3 of those and none of those and 1 of those. What are those? Let's have a look. The information is going to come from an XML menu file. It happens to be a kids menu from an activity my class would be familiar with, and the menu has a series of food items or elements in the XML language, and each food element has sub-elements of category, title, label, whether or not it's a vegetarian, and the cost of that item. So what we're going to do in this session is create a PHP class that will help us interact with this file. This stage we are not going to write or edit this file. We're simply going to read the title and the cost from each item in order and use that to firstly populate this table, and secondly use those costs in order to output our order confirmation. So this is where we're going. This is what we've got so far in HTML, and we're going to build this confirmation page. So let's get started with our class. I like to create a classes folder. It's a very good habit. Keeps your site files nice and organized. I'm going to create a new file called menu.php. Notice that I'm using standard conventions. The class file name starts with a capital letter. All of my other files are all lowercase. Do you have to do it like that? No, but it's a convention. So I open up my PHP tag and I'm going to put in doc block here. This is my menu class for interaction with the menu.xml file. Again, convention, our class name is a capital letter, and it's the same name as the file name. In our class, we're going to have a protected member called data, which is an empty array to begin with. And in order to interact with in order to get the data out of our data array, we are going to create a getter and a setter. We don't need a setter, we just need a getter. So we're going to have a public function called getData, and that is simply going to return the data array. In a more complex system, we'd probably do a lot more with this, but that's enough for us for now. I will say that each each element of the data is going to be an associative array. So it's simply going to have the item title, and it's going to have the item cost. Our constructor is going to take in the path to the XML file, or the XML file name. Okay, and what it's going to do with that is it's going to load the XML data, and this is it, into this data array. So let's look at how we're going to do that. So we're going to start by opening an instance of XMLReader. And sorry, my typing's not going very well. Alright, so I've created an instance of XMLReader class, and I've used the file name that was passed in to open that file. Having opened the file, I want to skip through until I get to the first food element. Having opened up the XML file, I want to skip through the prologue and the outer element, and just so that I can get to this food element. In order to do that, I'm going to create a while loop that reads through the file until so it's going to keep reading until the XML file name attribute is equal to food. So while it's reading and it's not equal to food, it will keep reading. Once it finds basically the first line in the file that has an element called food, then this loop will jump out. So let's say in here, skip to first food element. Now what we want to do is keep looping while it is food. So while this element is food, we're going to keep going. As soon as it gets to an element, or there are no more elements, or perhaps there was an element here called drinks, something else in our XML file, it will stop. All right, so the first time at this point in our code, we're at this point in the XML file. And so we want to take this food element and do something with it. Let's start simply by echoing out this element. Read outer XML. So we won't do anything else. We're not going to use the class or anything like that. We'll just do it like that. So let's go back to our order page, and inside our head section here, we're going to create a PHP block, and we're going to include classes menu.php. We're going to create a new instance of our menu class. And in our constructor, we're going to pass it menu.xml. So at this point in our order page, we come to here, we open up the reader, we skip through until the first food element, and then we're going to outline each, echo out each food element. And I might just add a HTML break in here as well, so we get each one on a new line. Let's see what happens. What could go wrong? Okay, so I'll refresh the page. Oh, look, we've got a load. All right. Maybe some of you can see, well, that's going to keep going on forever, as you can see. All right, let's get out of that. So what did I miss? Well, I'm inside a loop here, and I'm echoing out the first food element. However, I'm not moving on to the next one, right? So let's do that. XML file, next, food. So what does that do? Having read this element, it moves to the next sibling element of food. And then we can now read this line. So let's put a comment here. Move to the next food element. All right, now let's have a look at our file. Refresh that. Okay, so we've got tasty bites, lower in fat, true. Tasty bites, fresh vegetables, true. Okay, so we don't have all of our information, which is interesting. Anyway, let's have a look at our page source. And you can see here that in the page source, we actually have our XML file and our break here. So I just want to make this point. I'm just going to put those side by side for you. All right. So the HTML browser takes this XML and simplifies it. Okay. It doesn't do a great job of it because we haven't got an XML style sheet. But you can see we've still got all of our information. So we've got our category, we've got our title, but of course it didn't put the title in here because HTML puts the title here. So that's why we haven't got all of our information. All right, problem solved. So at least we can see that we've got the data that we want, okay? But it's not in a very useful format. So let's have a look and see how we can make it more useful to us. All right. So we'll just comment out that for later on. In order to help us read the individual elements from this particular node, okay, so the sub-elements of this element, we're going to use another PHP class, another built-in class. So let's create a variable called element, and that's going to be of new SimpleXML element. Now what we're going to pass into this XML element is in fact that string. Okay, now what this gives us is a more usefully formatted variable. So we've got this element. In order to see this element, we need to put it inside a pre-formatted tag. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this data element. So now I've got this array of elements in my data, and I can call the getData function to output it on my page. So let's do that here on the order page. So I'll just dump it at the top here, put in a pre-tag, and then my PHP, and I'm going to print menu get data. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so we've got an array, 1, 2, 3, 4 simple XML element objects, and you can see we've got category, title, label, vegetarian, and cost, which is exactly what we want. And this should be familiar. It looks like an associative array, and it sort of is, and it sort of isn't. You can do some reading about the SimpleXMLElement class. I'm going to leave it at that. But it certainly looks like something that we might be familiar with. So how can we use it? Oops. How can we use it? All right, we'll go back to our class here. We should be able to, instead of adding the whole element, let's just add the components that we want. So what do we want? So this is an item, and we're actually going to create an array that has title, and that's going to have some value, and it has the cost, and that's also going to have some value. And then we'll add item to our array. I said up here at the top that our data was going to have an array of titles and costs. So here we go. Where are we going to get the title from? Well, it's in the element, and because the SimpleXMLElement class allows us to treat the XML as an object, we can say, we can find, give me the element title. And in here, it can give us the element cost. Okay, so we've got title and we've got cost inside an associative array, and then we're pumping that array into our data. So when we output our get data now, instead of having simple XML objects with all of these elements, what we should have is still 4 elements. They are 1, 2, 3, 4. But now our array has got a title and a cost. It's still confusing though, because we've got a title, and our title is now a simple XML element object, and that has an element 0, which so we've made things a little bit simpler here, but not really here. So we're going to do one more step. And what we're going to do is we're going to typecast this element to a string. So the SimpleXMLElement class has a built-in string converter that allows us to do this. And the cost is a number, so we're going to cast that to a float. So let's have a look then at what happens now. Okay, so now we have our array of elements, and each one has a title and a cost. The title is a string and the cost is a float. we can tell it's a float because it's gotten rid of the decimal places. If I did this as a string, you can see in the menu itself, we've got our decimal places. So if I cast it as a string, then we get those decimal places. We could do it like that, and then we could get PHP to do its automatic typecasting when we do our calculations. But in this case, because we know we're going to use it as a number, it makes sense to treat it as a number. So let's go back again and see what we've got. So we've got 4 items, 1, 2, 3, 4, and each one has got a title and a cost. Well, we've got a table down here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and each row has an item and a cost. So we're going to now use PHP to loop through this array to create our table. Let's go and see how that's going to work. So I'm going to leave it in there for now. So this is the part of our code that we need to repeat. Okay, so let's get rid of 3 of those rows. In order to create all of our rows in our table, we need a PHP loop here. Oops. So we're going to use a for each loop. And this is from our menu get data array. And each one of these is an item. Okay. And underneath here, we're going to close off our table, our loop. Right, so we've got a PHP block with a for each and a closing tag. In the middle of this, we've got our normal HTML table. Now you could put all of this inside the PHP tag and use lots of echoes. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to do it this way. So in here, I need another PHP block. I'm going to echo out item title, because I know item is an associative array. Okay, this is how I set it up here. By the way, just because I've called this item here doesn't mean I have to call it item here, but it does make sense. In here, of course, we're going to have the cost. So we need another PHP block where we're going to echo out item cost. And that's all. So let's have a look and see what that's going to look like. Okay, so we have our pumpkin and feta frittata for $20, our lentil and pumpkin soup for $6, our beef burger for $12.50, and our Mexican tortilla for $10.50. I've obviously played around with the XML file, but that shows you that this is in fact dynamic. So if I go into my XML and I'll say that I'll put pumpkin and feta frittatas back to $19, and beef burgers have gone up to $13.50, and Mexican tortillas are back to $10, then when I refresh my page, my costs have reset. Notice though, because we're using floats and we've lost our decimal places, it doesn't look very nice. So let's just have a bit of a go at making this nicer. So I'm going to start by wrapping this in number format with 2 decimal places. And in here, I'm going to put a span tag with a class of currency. Has a $sign on it, and I'll close off the span. And then in my CSS, class currency, we're going to float that left. And so hopefully that'll make our page look a little bit nicer. Let's see that. Ooh, no, what do we do here? Oh, it looks like I've done something with my, oh yes, there you go, I've lost that. Let's have a go. There we go. Okay, so float left hasn't worked. Why is that? Class, currency, CSS, currency. Maybe I'll do a oh, that's annoying. I'll come back to it later. I'm sure I'll figure out what I've done. So yeah, that's all we need to do here. Submit that. So now we have to wire it all up so we can work out how much our order is going to cost, and we can do that in the final video in this series.